Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is the Senior Estate Concierge Show, and today I have a lovely guest with me, Kolby Jackson. Kolby, welcome. I'm so glad you could make it with us today. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? This internet that we get to be able to be live all over the world.
Yeah, you get to reach so many people.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well,
Happy-
why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your company?
So, my name is Kolby Jackson, and I am the founder of Neurogenix Speech Services. So, we are an outpatient mobile speech therapy company. And what that means is we treat anything from swallowing disorders, cognitive disorders, and speech and language disorders for adults and the geriatric population. A little things that set us aside from other people is the fact that we're mobile. So we come in home to the patient's house so we can provide the utmost functional treatment services, and we get to see where they're having their trials and tribulations, where they're what their everyday life is like, and we can tailor our services and our treatment plan to help them in the most way.
That okay, the one thing that you said that really struck me hard is you get to go to the patient instead of making them come to them. I'm noticing that as a trend because it's really hard, not only for young people to get to the doctor, but also the seniors have an extra added problem. Sometimes it's transportation, sometimes it's mobility. There's all these different factors that keep us from wanting to just get in the car and drive to our therapist, our doctor, even the grocery store sometimes. I'm noticing that people are starting to pay attention to that. So thank you for making that available to us. I really do. Now we can have chefs come to our house, we can have food delivered, we can have our doctor come to us. It's absolutely wonderful. How did you come up with this concept?
So I was working in home health, and for home health, that's strictly for people who are homebound. So you're only really leaving your house for maybe a doctor's appointment. You're not leaving for too long. But after those patients were discharged, they felt like there were no other options if they still didn't want to leave their house. And the next level in therapy for continuum of care is outpatient. But like you said, leaving your house can be taxing. It can be a daunting experience. You don't know where transportation's coming from. If you use a different transportation service, that can be expensive. So you don't want to find out those different options for you. So since I'm already seeing you for home health services, I saw that there was a wide open range of things that I could do for outpatient services. And we can continue the treatment sessions that we have been doing. I'm already there with you, so I thought it was a perfect next step.
Well, I think you were right, and I bet you're busy. I do have Colby's information scrolling across the screen, but we also have all our information down below in the show notes. You can hear us on podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you are on Facebook and you'd like to ask Colby a question, you'll need to just hit a link. So just look down below the video if you're on Facebook, if you want to ask a question. There's just a link down there that allows Facebook to show us your information. It's a privacy thing, they bad apples make it harder for us all, but that's okay. It's just a quick link. So you can ask a question, you can make a comment, and we can put it right up here on the screen. The next thing I want to do is to thank the owner and founder of the Senior Estate Concierge. Now, this was a concept that to me was just like the one that you had. It was like an epiphany. Uh, Bill Graff, the owner and founder, was selling real estate and helping families move into new places, buying new places, selling new places. And he got certified as a senior specialist. And he noticed that there were so many things that these seniors and their families really needed that he thought, you know what? I bet you I could gather a bunch of people friends, and we could start a group where we could service these seniors much better than they're being serviced right now. And that's how it was formed. So I would like it if you would take a moment to read the information that is scrolling across the screen right now about Bill Graff. He helped me also find a new home. I actually moved from Houston out to the country. I'm in the national forest, if you can believe it, which I think is great because modern technology is allowing us to come to you from our homes.
Yeah.
We get to work from home. We get to go to the homes of the people that we're helping, and everybody is serviced better. Now it's a little rocky, right? We're all starting to try to figure out how this all works, but I'm telling you, it's going in the direction that I love. So, Bill, thank you very much for having the concept of this group. We have over 50 members now that are all servicing seniors, background checked, and let's face it, we as a group keep an eye on everybody. So if they do something that's inappropriate, we know right away because we all talk and we all refer each other, and it's like a big family. So you can be assured that if you call us or you go to our website, which is the Senior Estate Concierge, and you ask for a service, we're going to give you top-notch people just like Kolby right here. So I want to know a little bit about how you feel about the Senior Estate Concierge, Kolby. How were you introduced? How'd you find out about us? And why'd you decide to join?
I met Shauna, and she's one of the chefs.
Oh,
Yeah, she's so sweet.
Shauna, yes, thank you.
I met her and she told me about it. She was sending me the emails to let me know when the meetings were. And it really just was perfect timing. I decided to join because I also have an additional service that is a caregiver navigation service. And similar to what you said, why Bill started this is because I've noticed that families, especially if you get a recent diagnosis, you go to your doctor's office and they're like, I'll see you back in 6 months. And you leave kind of more confused than when you got there because you don't know. So it's kind of like what are the next steps after that? And I noticed that they needed help. Seniors and their caregivers needed help on how to navigate this new world. And I wanted to give them resources, but if you don't know the people to refer them to, it's a little bit more difficult to complete that task. So, becoming a part of the Senior Estate Concierge, I got the resources that I needed. So,
Yes.
if they need a in-home chef, I have that. If they need to get a new insurance plan or to become Medicare, if they're Medicare eligible and they don't know what to do next, I have a resource for that. We have plenty of senior specialists who can help you downgrade. We have movers in the community and in this membership. So I have the resources at my fingertips and I'm able to pinpoint, okay, this is what you should do next. This is what you should do next. So it actually helped me in my business with this new service. And I'm also able to network and see what I can do to help their clients and their patients. And it was a perfect fit.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And we welcome you. We're so grateful to have you here. It's just my heart's desire from a very early age to help, to service. That's just in my nature, my genes. I have to help. And seniors called to me. Now, it's funny because I'm a senior now myself. I'm ready to go on to Medicare. And so I'm like, okay, all this time that I've been preparing, now I can start taking advantage of some of the discounts and some of the things that that seniors can now do. So thank you. Thank you for you young whippersnappers who are snapping into the place where you can help us, because we do need help. I'm telling you. I'm still driving and I'm still very lively, but there are people my age that aren't, that age got to them. So I'm young at heart. What can I say?
That's good.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you do and how you help people. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to just be free about what it is that you talk about. this is not a structured question and answer. Kolby didn't send me any questions. We're just going to talk because I think that's how people learn.
Yeah, definitely.
So Kolby, you saw a need and you decided that you wanted to go forward offering services that felt good to you, that you were capable of doing, that you felt people needed. And what was like the first thing that said to you, I'm in the right place. This is exactly where I need to be.
I think I found that out a while before I started my business. I For speech therapy, our scope of practice is so wide, so we can treat anywhere from children to geriatrics. So you have plenty of options. So going into grad school, I thought I wanted to treat kids, but I had my first adult patient, and helping them regain those skills that they've lost after a traumatic brain injury, a stroke, or whatever is, like you said, the most rewarding thing that I think I could do. So being um, kind of a silver lining to help them get better in one of their darkest periods, to me, is when I realized, yeah, I'm in the right place.
Okay, all right. And do you have a family or a senior that sticks out in your mind, a story that you could tell us?
That sticks out, I would say, I do have one. He had dysphagia, so swallowing difficulty, and we were completing therapy. And I think it was around the holidays, so he was a little bit sad that he wasn't going to be able to have his like normal Thanksgiving dinner in the next month or so. So we were getting ready for Thanksgiving, but that was his big goal to upgrade his diet so he could have his turkey, his dressing, and things like that. And so we completed vital stim. So it's where there's electric stimulation on your throat to increase the muscles that are being used. And within that time period, about a month or two, we were able to get him back on a regular diet. And I remember after Thanksgiving, him and his family gave me a text and let us know how much he enjoyed that. And so you don't realize what you're missing until you don't have it anymore, or you need modifications to complete it. So that just warmed my heart that I was able to make a difference in that way.
I love that story. I love that story so much. We take for granted sometimes the things that we're able to do when we're younger
But
or before an accident.
yeah.
You don't just help seniors, right? You have other people that you can help in the family. Is that
Yes.
true?
Yes, the caregivers as well. I think it's difficult. We sometimes forget about the caregivers, and the caregivers forget about themselves because you're trying to help your loved one who's just had an injury of whatever sort. So the caregivers are also who I can help. Um, and it's more so of a counseling plan of care for them to see, when I'm not working with your loved one, what can you be doing to increase their progress and continue to facilitate gains. So if it's exercises that you could be doing, if it's activities to keep them cognitively stimulated, we work on that. And then they also kind of tell me in a more relaxed environment, what trials and tribulations are they dealing with their loved one. Because sometimes when we're all together, so it's me, the client, and the loved one, I mean, and the caregiver isn't always willing to say exactly what's going on. You know, you want to save face for whoever your loved one is, and you don't want them to make them feel like they're a burden or whatever other thing. So sometimes I'm not getting the full story whenever we're all together. So the caregiver, whenever it's a one-on-one, they can open up just a little bit more, and I get a better picture of what's going on.
So fascinating. So your website is is full of information, and one of the first things that popped out at me was a big sentence that says the brain is the powerhouse of the body. Let's stimulate your brain and create new neural pathways. Every step is an accomplishment. Every step is a celebration. Every step is one step closer to your goal. Tell us more about the brain being the powerhouse. I'm fascinated by that.
So with that, our brain, I think I read a study recently and said where we are with knowing how the brain works is where we were in the 1970s about how the heart works. So it's such a vast organ that we haven't even completely tapped into, but it controls every single part of our body. If our brain isn't working, the rest of our body is not going to fall in place to do what we need it to do. So depending on where your stroke happened, if it's in the left quadrant of your brain, that's where speech is housed. So you may have difficulty expressing your wants and needs or understanding information, reading written language, or writing information as well. So depending on where that trauma in the brain occurred, that will dictate what treatment plan we'll need because you will present with different deficits. So that's why the brain is the powerhouse. I think sometimes in the speech world, we say that speech therapy is the stepchild of the therapy. It can compare it to occupational and physical therapy, but in actuality, it is one of the most important ones to me because if you're having difficulty communicating your wants and needs, that's huge. If you're having trouble
Yes.
swallowing, we swallow every day. So
Yes. Matter of fact.
um, that will change your life drastically. So
Oh,
this
yes.
field is just very near and dear to my heart. And
Okay. I have a question that just popped up. This is a real life case scenario. I care for a lady with Alzheimer's, and she has lost the ability to remember how to swallow.
mhm.
Is that something that you can help with? Because she can't follow your directions, she can't remember how to swallow. So, how do you deal with something like that?
So depending on what stage they are in the dementia process will dictate what type of therapy that we provide. So at some point when they progress that much and it's difficult for them to follow directions. So we may not be able to establish compensatory strategies. Then we're pretty much modifying the environment, modifying the foods that they're eating so it's easier for them to swallow. Um, Training the caregivers so they know what to do as far as crushing medications to decrease the risk of aspiration. Um, they may need to sit them upright so they're not coughing. It's a case by case basis, but there are things that we can do. And depending on the diagnosis, we may not be focusing completely on rehabilitating and getting them back to where they are, but we'll be focusing on compensating so they're maintaining their level for as long as possible.
I noticed that the caregivers were putting thickeners in her water. How does that help you swallow?
So with the thickener, you have a little bit more control of how fast the liquid's going down your throat. And with that control, it can improve, well, I would say decrease the risk of it going down the wrong way. So essentially, we have two paths in our throat. One is the path to our trachea and it leads to our airway. The second is our esophagus and it leads to our stomach. We need it to our food and water to go down our esophagus into our stomach. That's where it's broken down and things like that. If it goes down the wrong way, our body has some signs that say, "Hey, something's going on." So you may cough if you notice you something went down the wrong way and you start coughing.
Oh, yeah.
Your,
Happens all the time.
your eyes might water, nose may run. So things like that. When there's weakness in this area, the thickener may give the person more control so they have more time to get their swallow ready to swallow and for it to go down the right way. But what we say is thickener isn't always the best thing because it can cause a host of other issues. But whenever there are issues, we typically get a modified barium swallow study ordered, and that's the x ray to determine what's going on. So we can see through the x ray, is it going down the right way, the esophagus into the stomach, or is it going down the trachea? We get to see what anatomy isn't working how it needs to. So then we know what exercises we need to do in our plan of care. and our treatment sessions to improve your swallow function.
Thank you for that because these caregivers are so busy. I didn't want to take their time to stop them right in the middle of what they were doing while I was watching them, add a thickener to the water and things like that. I know that she's on liquids now because she has forgotten how to swallow, but apparently, if enough liquid gets in your mouth, you swallow whether you know what you're doing or not. Because she is able to at least have some boost, that type of liquid and water. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Now, if you're watching the show or listening and you have a question, even if it's after the show, I'm sure Kolby would be grateful for any kind of interaction that you have. We would love it if you refer her. We would love it if you reach out to her and ask her questions about maybe a family member, maybe even a neighbor or someone that you think might be able to use her services. Now, let's go over some of the services that you provide. You've talked about speech and you've talked about swallowing. What else are we missing? What else do you do?
Memory therapy, so cognitive therapy.
What? Memory? I need that.
I would say that's one of my favorite ones. But what we do for that is, depending on what you're having difficulty with, we can set up different exercises. So if you're having problems with your short or long-term memory, if you're having problem solving, sequencing steps, if you're having problem with your thought organization, so I'm asking you something and you're going on a tangent, if you're having frequent falls, if you're having difficulty managing your finances now, managing your medication, orientation, so they're confused on what time of day it is, if the sun is up and they're like, it's time for bed, things like that are different parts of your memory and parts of your cognition that we can work on in speech therapy. So I know sometimes I go to see somebody and they're like, why are you here? I talk fine. And I'm like, well, are you having trouble swallowing? They're like, no. I'm like, how's your memory? And they're like, it's been better. So letting the people know that we do a vastly different things in our field is important, because sadly, some people have disorders, Parkinson's, that affect their cognition, and they know that their speech is affected and they need speech therapy for that, but they're not getting speech therapy for the cognitive aspect. So, because they don't know all the time. So, informing people that typically, if you've had a traumatic brain injury, if you have an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis, if you've had a stroke, or Parkinson's, those are some diagnoses that we typically treat on a daily basis.
Well, Kolby, you're just fascinating, honestly. I am fascinated not only by what you do, but why you did it, and so I'm thinking to myself, what's next for Kolby?
That's a good question. You stumped me. One thing that I've been thinking about is, so we spoke earlier about technology and how important it is for accessibility.
Yes.
So amazed and glad that now typically a lot of therapists are doing teletherapy. So if you're in the country or wherever you are, you still have access to services. Another thing that I've been looking into and am in the beginning stages of researching is to see how can people have therapy or continue their therapy whenever their therapist is gone. So I'm looking into trying to brainstorm how I can help people when the therapist isn't there, because I see people maybe once to two times for about 45 minutes throughout the week, and unfortunately that just isn't enough time to really work on the different deficits that they have so they can improve and they can reach their goals. And when people are motivated and their family is involved, a lot of times they're asking like, what else can I do, what else can I do? So that's kind of my thought process right now on the side, is how can I help these people in a bigger way?
I got to tell you, I am so impressed. I am so excited. I am so happy that I just can't wait for everyone to learn about you and what you're planning and the services that you provide. We have to do more. We have to share this. If you're watching this, if you're listening, please share it, because this is what we're talking about. Innovative and therapies that really can help. And somebody who is interested in the whole patient, not just one thing that they have a problem with. Somebody who can see the bigger picture. Thank you so much, Kolby. I can't even thank you enough for being here today and sharing your knowledge and your sweet self. You're just lovely. You're
You're
lovely, and I can't wait to tell more people about you.
you're
Is
so
there anything that you can think of that we did not cover today?
You mentioned letting family members or anybody that you know who may need services ask questions. I also, if you call my number, we have a 15-minute free consultation. So you can ask me, let me know what's going on. We can see if we can potentially develop a plan of care, or if I can help you, if I believe that I'm able to help you, and what to do moving forward, and schedule the evaluation and go from there. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, just in case you're not watching this, you're listening to our podcast, I'm going to tell you the information that can help you. So you can pull over and write this information down, or you can come back later and check us out on YouTube. So Kolby has a phone number. It's 832-304-4524. And I'll let you talk a little bit about your website, because I don't think it's easy to pronounce for a lot of people.
No, it's not. It's www.neurogenixllc.com. And Neurogenix is spelled Neurogenix. And I'll just, since we're talking about it, I'll speak a little bit about how I created the name. But I treat neurogenic speech disorders, so things that happen in the brain. And so I thought that that was just a perfect fit for everything that I do, since the brain is the powerhouse. And that just, it seemed like the perfect branding for the company and the direction that I wanted to move in.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, I'm going to say goodbye for now, but I do want you to come back. I want you to store up some stories about your patients, your clients, whatever you call people that you help. I want you to be able to share with us a little bit about um, what it's like to work with you. So come back with some stories very soon. Okay?
Okay, definitely. I look forward to it.
All right. So this has been Marian LaSalle with the Senior Estate Concierge, special guest Kolby Jackson. So I look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.
Bye.